Okay, welcome to Fresh Set of Downs. My name is Bruce Badgley. I'm joined once again by my good friend there, Bob Long. And Bob, I tell you what, we got a very special guest here tonight on FSOD.
We do. Tim Roken, head coach of St. Joseph's Prep. It's a wonderful school in Philadelphia Catholic League with a great football tradition. Winners of 7 state titles over the last 10 years. They've been to 9 state finals in that time. And arguably one of, if not their strongest team. We might adjudicate that on the show here tonight. Tim, thrilled to have you on.
No, thank you guys for having us or having me. And it's always great to be a part of this at this time of the year. It means we're still playing important football and, being on a show like this in the playoffs, and appreciate everything you guys do for high school sports in Pennsylvania.
Well, thank you, Tim. And yes, important football being played by your guys right now, specifically the last 2 weeks. I guess the traditional Philadelphia Catholic League title game weekend, which now becomes a District 12 semifinal against LaSalle. Then you turn your attention to the District 12 championship, where you take on the 6A champ from the public league. If you could walk us through the last 2 weeks, how you guys prepared and how you feel you fared in 2 victories there to continue on.
Yeah, I think first with LaSalle, Coach Steinmetz and myself have a lot of familiarity with each other, and being on offensive, defensive side of the balls for years as we were coordinators, and now both head coaches, and obviously within staffs and as programs, we have a great respect for one another, but a lot of familiarity. So, regardless of what happens usually in the first game, the second game, can always bring a challenge in that way, and we've seen that over the years. And we're able to be successful that night and take care of LaSalle and move on. And then in the city title, again, regardless of the projections and where people see us ending the year, we have to make sure that we're getting better every day and focusing on the next opponent, because it's the most important. Because at this time of the year, it's about keeping this group together as long as we can. Every team's got a 1-year life expectancy, and we got a great group of seniors, and the underclassmen want to see them go out the right way. But we need a full buy-in from everybody within the program to make sure that we can continue to keep this train rolling another week. And we had a great opportunity this week versus Nazareth.
Yeah, Dave, and you're familiar with Nazareth being up there from District 11. You got a question for Coach?
Yeah, Coach, have you got a chance to see some of the film? What's your thoughts on Nazareth, and what's your maybe concerns going into the game that they could bring, against your program?
Yeah. Hey, listen, you look down, their starting lineups on both sides of the ball. And, I know we have a lot of seniors, but they have a lot of seniors as well. I think they're starting 9 of 11 are seniors on both sides of the ball are starting. So, a very senior laden team, a very experienced team that, did an unbelievable job of winning last week, and
Yeah.
incredible game. To be able to watch that and kind of, live through kind of the last quarter there, which got crazy. And
It was crazy. Yeah.
it shows the resilience by that team, and how they play hard for coach and play for one another. And again, at this time of the year, it's you're trying to stay together, and we got to make sure that we get better this week and focus on ourselves. And obviously, we're gonna prepare against the scheme that we see and from Nazareth. But we got to make sure that we find a way to get better this week and clean up some of the things where we've depending, regardless of the scoreboard, the last couple of weeks, there's still things that we need to be better at. So focusing on those things and making sure that we show up and we put our young men in the best position to be successful on Saturday.
Yeah, one of the guys that I know is really excited about playing against you is Sean Kinney. He's a guy that's a 3-time finalist for wrestling, 2-time state champ. Plays both ways on the line. He's really excited about, playing, a program like St. Joe's Prep to see, where he is. So he's a kid that, I talked to him after the game, and he's really looking forward to going down there and play.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, watching him on film and knowing the background of him as a state wrestler, and having Maxwell Roy being a heavyweight wrestler on our team and being a
Yeah.
defensive lineman, I'm sure they'll face off a little bit at times this week. And but he's a great player across that line. The quarterback, is you got to account for him in the run game. He can spin it, and those guys do a good job protecting him. Coach does a good job putting him in the positions to be successful. And, they got two running backs that are carrying right now with the senior back and then the sophomore back.
Yep.
And they're going to give us, they're going to give us their best shot, right, as we expect from everybody. I think we're both playing really good football at this time of the year, which is what you want to be doing. And, just got to get back to work this week and reset the deck and try and go take care of business on Saturday afternoon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Coach, how does it feel? I mean, Dave just alluded to that. Obviously, everybody's always going after St. Joe Prep. Okay. You're getting everybody's best shot. This is their Super Bowl every time they play it, whether it's regular season or postseason. So how do you, keep your guys focused on the task at hand? That there's no let up here. Everybody's giving you your best shot, and you've got to come out with your best each and every week, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the great part about it is, one, we know we're going to get everybody's best shot. Two, I think we start that process, and that has always been a trend for us in the beginning of the year to play great competition from around the country and finding those games that we can manage there and and find out where we are. You get through that tough slate and you come back and play a tough Catholic League schedule every year. And again, knowing you're going to get everybody's best shot. And then you get to this time of the year, and you would hope that playing that tough early schedule prepares us for the bright lights and playing in big time football games. At this time, we've gotten better each week in different phases. And, again, just trying to kind of continue to do that and put our scheme together this week and put our guys in the best position to be successful, on Saturday, and knowing that, we've been a part of these games, gratefully a few times. And, I know people from the outside in sometimes think that it's been a clean slate for us in making a run to the state playoffs every year. But, being a coordinator, I can tell you, there's been some, nail biting moments in some of these playoff games we've had once we've got into the state playoffs. And but I think it shows the resilience in our staff and our team. And I think we showed that as a team, resilience earlier on in some of those big time games, and even throughout the regular season, and not playing our best at times and still being able to get a victory.
Bob, you got a question?
Let's talk then about the road to get to this point. You alluded to it there in terms of where this program has come, and now you're, the leader of the program. But prior to you, Gabe Infante built a great program. Even prior to that, Gil Brooks actually saw Gil at Drew Gordon's funeral, which, by the way, was a class move for him to be there. But if you could just take us through your time, because I know you mentioned you were the coordinator, you worked under Gabe for a long time. Through your eyes, Tim, what has the progression of this program looked like?
Yeah, earlier on, I got here back in 2010 as a young assistant and worked with the quarterbacks and receivers my first year, and took over the following year as the offense coordinator, and spent 9 years as the offense coordinator. And obviously, in those times since 2013, when we made it into the state playoffs and made some runs there, it was a growing process for me as a young coach and the rest of our staff and a core group of us, and Tom Sugden, our offensive coordinator, assistant head coach, our defense coordinator, and Sean Stratz, two guys that have been here since 2012 as well. And there's a few others that are key pieces, in that core group that have been here for a long time. So the continuity in the staff and understanding, what needed to be done and what's expected made my job a lot easier when I took over the job in 19 because nobody left. Everybody stayed on board, and we're able to continue as a staff and developing these guys and understand what was expected and holding them to that same standard. And that was something that what seems like forever ago at this point, sitting down with Gabe when I first interviewed for the job. We had very similar values in what we believed in, and try to build a path for us being one of the best programs in the country. And that's just not waking up and seeing our names in the top of the rankings, but just how we go about our business, and whether it's practice, on the field, whether it's off the field, whether it's in the classroom, how we travel, how we watch film, how we weightlift, nutrition, all those different things. We want to try and create an environment so that allows, when our guys, if they have the opportunity and want to go play college football, right, that they're prepared to the nth degree, that they're going to go in and things will come easier to them, right? And I think it falls in with our school and being in a high academic program school as well. So they're being held to a high standard in the classroom, on the football field. And we expect them to hold themselves to a high standard and protect our brand when they're not around us, because they represent more than themselves. And I think as this time has grown, as this program, we've continued to play a tough schedule in our non-league to prepare our guys for this opportunity. And grateful to be here again, and try to remind our guys that there can be, what is harder, right? To adversity or fighting complacency, right? And complacency, right, is something that we've had to preach to our guys about, not falling in line with that, and making sure that we're finding ways to get better, because there's a sense of some guys at times when they come into the program that it just happens. Right. And we've lived it, and we understand that every team has a 1-year life expectancy. So it's getting a new group of seniors, right, to lead in the right way. It's getting a whole group of sophomores who maybe don't understand it yet, right, and all buying into one goal and playing it and playing for one another, and believing in that motto of ours of trust and love. And that you got to be able to trust that everybody's preparing in the same way and practicing the same way, right, regardless of whether they're a starter or they're on scout team or their role within the program. But also loving one another, because people are going to make mistakes, right, from the top down, right? I'm going to make mistakes, or assistants are going to make mistakes. As individuals, as high school kids, they're going to make mistakes in games, right? But it's how we respond is more important, and I think the resilience and the understanding of who we are and where we need to get to, and how we handle ourselves as a staff is important. And then it's getting these guys to buy in, right, to that goal, right, and playing for one another and what we're presenting to them. And our group as another great senior group who have, as you stated earlier, right, this is a group that has been there before, a senior group that lost as sophomores, and a senior group that won as juniors. So they understand, what went wrong a little bit during that sophomore year, right, for us maybe not to finish the right way, and how we needed to finish last year. But last year has nothing to do with this year in that way, where this is a new group, and this team's grown throughout the year, and excited to jump into the state playoffs here in this quarterfinal game on Saturday.
Dave, you got a question for Coach?
Yeah, I mean, obviously your program, you have so many players in different colleges all over. How proud are you of McCord and Harrison at Ohio State, ranked second in the nation? I mean, they've been an incredible duo, not only in high school, but at the next level.
No, it's been great to see them develop together in their time at Ohio State, and super proud of those guys. And the stories that come out about them are the reason that they're at the level they are, and the commitment that they've had to their own craft. It's one thing to be around the coach and having them put you through drills, and when you developing in those drills, but all the way back to when they first got here, those two individuals took it upon themselves to find ways to better themselves when they were not in the building and around us. And I think what the successes that they have are go back to that in regards to them holding themselves to a high standard and understand where they wanted to get to, and realize that they had to work even harder than regardless of the praises that they were getting or the accolades that they were getting. They found ways on their own time to make sure that they were developing. And I always joke, articles or the videos that come out about Marvin and the jugs machine and being there at 5 a.m. and being there at the end of the day. Like, you're going to name a jugs machine after him at some point. I swear. Like, it's, that'd be a nice NIL deal, I'm sure, for him. But with Kyle too, what he's gone through there, I think is something special and should be recognized, whereas not very common in college football nowadays, especially at the highest level, to stick it out. Right, with as many quarterbacks were in that room a couple of years ago, and not getting a ton of reps, and then going, sticking it out and believing in himself and committing himself to Ohio State and saying, you know what, I chose this place. I believe in myself. I'm confident. I'm going to continue to work, and I'm going to give it my best shot. And I think the people within that program respect him for that and appreciate him for that. And listen, he's probably one of the most criticized college football players in the country, but he understands with that, right? And being at State, and listen, that's somewhat comparable being here, I'm sure, right, for him at some point, right? I mean, being at St. Joe's Prep, people expect us to win, right? And it's just, but he understands how much work goes into that and preparing for that, and then be able to manage that from a bigger spotlight. I give him so much credit in how he's handled himself, and super excited for him and Marvin and the opportunity to have in this week and in the upcoming weeks, really kind of put a statement on this year for them.
Tim, speaking of which, speaking to Kyle there, like, not only sitting behind CJ Stroud, who felt like he was a Heisman contender both the years he started there, but now there's a hotshot freshman behind him coming into this offseason, and they're talking about that at Ohio State. That's going to happen when you go to a school like that and that type of talent. So I think what Kyle's been able to do and get him to this point is phenomenal. While we're on that subject, and Bruce, sorry to interrupt
No, go right ahead.
How about a quick comment on Zacchaeus and what DeAndre Swift are able to do locally here for the Pirates?
Been great for the school, been great for the program, and so happy for them and their families. To have young men that developed and grew up and matured through our program. I think that's what's so special about the high school level is developing young men at this level and watching them to go on and do great things. Whether it be in college and obviously we have a few that have played now in the NFL, but also just as happy and proud of the guys that we continue to get texts from of even our coaches that are back now that have played with those guys that are back as coaches now within our program, or guys that have gone on to be doctors and lawyers and build families themselves. And so proud of the young men that have, and I think those guys appreciate it as well, right? They didn't get there by themselves, right? They understand that a lot of people that they surround themselves with are a big piece, right, of their success and where they are, and they do nothing but humble themselves, right, and stay humble and continue to work. And that mindset that those two guys and developing their craft every day and being great teammates and doing what's right for the team. I mean, they're in a great culture and atmosphere that Coach Sirianni's got there here in Philadelphia, and super excited to see them and the success that they're having within the organization there, and at this highest level has been pretty special. And obviously them being back in Philadelphia is a great thing. And I said at the St. Joe's Prep LaSalle luncheon, a lot of people talk about DeAndre and Olamide, and we were super excited. And I said, I'm sure a lot of people the buzz would be the same though if a guy like Zaire Franklin, who used to cause me nightmares in playing in high school, and was playing for the Eagles as well, was doing a phenomenal job, and I think leading the NFL in tackles right now. But there's some great high school football players that have come out of this area to go on and do some great things in college and at the NFL. And I think it speaks to Philadelphia football and Pennsylvania football, in regards to that.
Yeah, Coach, the thing with me, and obviously I've seen, the progression in this group of seniors, right along here. And, the single biggest thing that I marvel at is, how you manage the emotions of a season. Okay. So that you go through, a preseason, you try and keep everybody peaked during the season, and then making sure that there's some emotion, left in these guys' tank to get all the way to a state championship. I mean, how do you do that? I just can't imagine trying to get these guys on that kind of level emotionally.
I think I credit our coaches and showing up every day with the energy that they have had over the years, and especially guys that have been here for a long time. And it's a challenging always in the months of June, July, and August, and rolling into a season. But it's setting the expectation and the standard high early, and understanding that, listen, this is where it's not about you, right? It's about the guys that came before you, right? And you're in a position now to uphold that, right? This tradition, right, that we've had here over the last we'll say Gil Brooks and going back, and even when Coach Carlin and Coach Brink were here, right? Great programs at St. Joe's Prep. And they are what is going to be their story. And this is we have 28 seniors within the program that have been through it, right? Again, right, at finishing second, right, and finishing first in the state. And it's building that the standards and the expectation from the beginning. And it obviously it might be easier when a team like IMG is rolling in, the emotions are high, right? We're kicking the season off, and but it's focusing on ourselves lesser than the opponent, and saying, all right, hey, listen, we're talented, right? But we got to make sure that we get better every day, and we're developing, all right, within our scheme, and we're developing depth, right? It's a long season. Guys are going to get banged up, and we got to make sure. And I think our coaches do a great job of developing depth. It's a piece here on the offensive line, right? We lose a left guard and Khalil Stewart, who's probably going to be one of the better offensive linemen in the state, and will be as a senior next year. Wasn't able to play this past week, and we had to maneuver and put our right tackle at guard, and bring in our tight end to play tackle, and our backup tight end to play tight end. So it's a little bit of a change up there, but again, and then it's some of the receivers positions too, right? Guys get banged up, and guys fill in and are prepared for those moments. But I think throughout the year, it's just making sure that we're continuing to get better in little phases, right? Whether it's the little fundamentals and techniques, whether it's special teams, offense, defense, and whatever we're doing. And, regardless of whether we're on ESPN or a big time team, a ranked
or
team,
Bob Long Sports,
or playing, and there's not a lot of people in the stands. It can't be the outside factors that motivate us, right, to perform. It can't be all those things. It has to be our own self-discipline, and almost commitment to one another, for the time that we spent together. We're hurting ourselves, if we're not giving it our best. And at this time of the year, seniors, your numbers, your days are numbered at this point, right? So if you're not showing up here every day and make sure that we're practicing with a purpose, and if we're not holding each other accountable, if guys are not practicing with passion and with a purpose, we want competition in practice. And I think that helps our guys, when they have great competition in practice and practice hard, that we want the game to be easier for them, right? Not because it's the opponent's not as a high of a level. That's not the view. The idea is that they're playing with confidence because of their preparation, and they're playing with trust, right? And they're playing with love, right? Because of the commitment that they've had for one another, and that's what's special at this time of year. And what a better week to talk about family than Thanksgiving. And it's been, in a way, right, part of tradition, right? It's like, hey, let's practice together on Thanksgiving morning at 6 a.m. Right. That's what that's become. And we're looking forward to having that opportunity again on Thursday morning.
Wow, great. Bob, final question for Coach?
Sure, Tim, and thanks for doing this and being on the podcast here. From a standpoint of what you guys have been fortunate to experience, getting all the way to what was Hershey for so many years, now Cumberland Valley. Is there one moment, one team, one player that sticks out to you and is kind of emblematic of the last decade of St. Joe's Prep football?
As a coach, selfishly, you'll never forget your first one. In 2013, and taking a team which were, big underdogs going into versus a powerful Pittsburgh Central Catholic team, and to go into that game and watch a group that was able to have the opportunity to do it for the first time. And we were losing at halftime, I believe 10-3. And I remember walking into that locker room and, especially on the offensive side and talking to those guys. And I don't think I've ever been in a more confident locker room at the time, right? That regardless of the score and the moment that they've never experienced before, to be so confident, at that time, and then to come out the second half and flip the script and go on and win the game versus Central Catholic in the fashion that we did. I think it was great for those guys because of how much they had gone through, and having some losses around the area the prior 2 years, and people telling us, right, well, why don't you win in the league before you go and play in out of the state? And but we had a view, right? We had a vision of where we wanted to get to. And we were willing to take those lumps to get to where we needed to as a program. We've been 3-0 in those non-league games and won a state title, and we've been 1-3 and won a state title. So, that process has always been good to us for this time of the year. But yeah, thinking back into those ones, there's been obviously some special moments, and some great teams and individual players and and opponents we faced. Hopefully they'll, maybe I always said Gabe, I said, Gabe's going to write a book one day, about the hard times to hear. And, but there are obviously some amazing moments that we've had in this time that I've been a part of this program. And, but you'll never forget your first and having that first feeling of winning a state title. And, but the goal is this year now, right? And this one wants to be just as special because we have guys that never been a part of it, within the program, and we want these seniors to go out the right way. And I think at this time of year, right, the young guys are playing for them, and the seniors are want to end their season the right way and sign off, once we have that opportunity potentially and take care of business on Saturday.
Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate that. Just want to say you guys have been a great representative of the Philadelphia Catholic League in District 12. I've enjoyed seeing you guys 2 or 3 times a year, it seems now. So maybe we'll catch you again in Cumberland Valley this year. Best of luck the next few weeks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, best of luck, Coach. Listen, he can just go ahead
Good
and
luck,
sign
Coach.
off, and we'll carry on with the show. We really appreciate your time. All right, and we look forward to seeing you down the road.
Thank you. Go Prep.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
Go Birds tonight too.
You
guys.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya. Yeah, wow. I tell you what, it's almost become like a holiday tradition that we get Tim Roken on the Fresh Set of Downs podcast. But it's very what I took from this is the fact that not so long ago, this wasn't the, kind of juggernaut he's talking about, that they were, obviously trying to build this program into what it was becoming. He talked about his first championship and what have you. And, obviously where they're at now, it takes an awful lot of hard work, right, Bob?
It does. It does. And listen, we know that folks have different opinions about that program across the state for a variety of reasons. I don't know that there are many people in the media space that have been a ton closer to that program than I have, just seeing them again, like I said, 3 times a year, playing LaSalle twice. And as it turns out in state championship games. And, it is a class program. The people there are really good people. In terms of when that, that point of inflection came, really, it took LaSalle, the team that I broadcast for throughout the year, down a peg. I mean, it was LaSalle that won the state title in 2009 and went to the game in 2010 and was in a state semifinal in 2011 and won a Catholic League championship in 2012. And just, there came the Hawks, Gil Brooks, who then turned the program over to Gabe Infante. Gabe Infante, by the way, who ended up coaching at the college level, now is working with Penn State football. there's a lot of talent on that St. Joe's prep team that hopefully he and Tim are working to, to feed up to State College and hopefully can be successful at that level. But Tim's done an excellent job with the program. You can see a great face and voice of that St. Joe's prep football program, and doesn't look to be stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, Dave, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well said. This is a program, like you said, represents Philadelphia. But, when they're playing teams like IMG, St. Peter's, programs outside the state, I mean, they're really representing Pennsylvania. Any of these programs, when they're going out of state, whether it's Pittsburgh Central Catholic, Erie Cathedral Prep, St. Joe's Prep, any MOTEP, any of those programs, we're trying to show that, hey, we still have good football here in Pennsylvania. But again, that Philly area is really putting out some, incredible college and pro football players. And it's definitely a hotbed down there.
Yeah, definitely a hotbed. And just like you talked about, we kind of circle the wagons, when Pennsylvania team is playing a team from another state, and so anyway, well, listen, let's get rolling here. Why don't I go ahead and start sharing my screen here? We've got some results from last week. I mean, we are right in the throes of obviously the state tournament here, and some of the games that we had last week were, I mean, I can't fit them all on one page, but
Yeah.
here's some of the good ones there. That Southern Columbia Troy game, I mean, I was looking at some of the stats on Southern Columbia, the fact that they've won like their 9th straight in District 4. They've won 31 in 33 years. I mean, that's ridiculous, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah. And that game was interesting because they went up to Troy, who was the number 1 seed, and they had a grass field, and it was coming down rain. And I don't know if you saw on Twitter the interview with Garcia. I mean, you couldn't even see his number. He was just covered in mud. And, I heard a couple of people saying they weren't sure if he was going to play or not because of the week before. He played a great game, got the 2 scores, and, Southern Columbia, they're 2 weeks away from getting to where they want to be to win those state titles. So, business as usual.
Bob?
And you know what? Not to suggest a format, but I'm gonna say let's bounce around here because there are so many games. I'm gonna pick and choose. Imhotep Roman Catholic. Imhotep 30, Roman Catholic 26. Roman Catholic had a lead into the 4th quarter there. A couple, certainly breaks go Imhotep's way. Imhotep really out executes Roman Catholic down the stretch. Otherwise, we're talking about maybe a huge upset that shouldn't have been termed as such, but that might have been your best game of the weekend. I feel for Rick Preet. I felt in a lot of ways that this might have been the year to pull the upset, and they were right there. Imhotep, a little bit more experience. Mikkel Davis, incredible, looking to lead his team back to the state final where they've had muted success, right? 1-5 in state title games. So the dream remains alive, but that game was unbelievable.
Yeah, how about the Downingtown West, Downingtown East game? I mean, turnabout is fair play. Downingtown West, after losing in the regular season at East, comes back, and wins, scores a winning touchdown with 16 seconds. They actually scored on the last play of the first half. So, I mean, they take it right down to the end there and come out with the win there, Dave. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a tremendous win. Downington East was a team that I thought had a great shot to maybe, contend and maybe win that 6A District 1 bracket, especially with CB West, their running back going down. Um, but give West credit. They made the adjustments from the first meeting and come out with the 17-14 win.
Yeah, Bob, any other games here that, for you, obviously, where that you think
Yeah.
maybe stand out?
Well, I think Wyo made a huge statement against West Perry.
Yeah.
Continuing on, we know how good West Perry was. Kind of leaked a little oil down the stretch, but I think that's a huge win. Obviously, for Wyomissing, every one of these is a huge win, but a statement win, I'll say. I'm going to throw one game, Bruce, that isn't on here.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of good ones that aren't. So.
I know. It's a team that I think showed up in one of your guys, either big school, small school, or Dave, maybe it was you in the intermediate. PJP going
Yeah.
down.
Going
to
down.
Prendergast, and they were 12-0 on the year. And I had some people in my ear, and I don't think it was either of you guys saying, "Hey, it's a team that can play with and maybe beat Bishop McDevitt." I didn't quite see that, but I feel for PJP because I do think it was a special team. Not that Bonner doesn't deserve it or didn't play well. I think there were like 6 turnovers in that game from PJP, and that obviously just doesn't win games at this time of year. I think it reinforces, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little later. Everybody's trying to get Bishop McDevitt, and Mannheim Central is going to have the best chance to do that. But there's one of those big suitors that people thought, hey, maybe in a state semifinal, PJP, could they knock off Goliath there in 4A? It's not going to happen this year.
Yeah, not going to happen. Harrisburg, for me, they kind of ran wild over Central York. Ran the ball extremely well. Still, they fell behind early, came back, and held on over Central York. I mean, a team that had gone through undefeated, and boy, what a knockdown, drag out that was. But for me, Steel High, actually, I think that, the score doesn't really indicate how close this game was. It was scoreless at the half. And maybe this is just kind of the wake-up call that Steel High needed, to get back and win a state championship. I mean, a really tough, hard-fought game.
Absolutely.
With Northern Bedford there. But wow, all these games just pretty fantastic. And Bob, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, well, I was going to say my game that I was at was Nazareth Parkland, and listen, going into the fourth quarter, tied at 3. It was, at halftime was 0-0, and then it was incredible back and forth. Parkland scores with 11:55 to go. They go up 10-3. Nazareth answers. Parkland comes back. Trumba 14-yard touchdown run with like 3 minutes to go. You thought, oh boy, he's going to do it again. His touchdown would be the winning score. But Nazareth, Tom Falzone's son, Peyton, on a 3rd down and long, rolled right and just cut through the defense and somehow 25-yard touchdown. And then they put their receiver in, Keener, to do the 2-point conversion. He rolled right, waited, and hit the 2-point conversion because coach told me after the game that they felt they couldn't stop Parkland in overtime. So that's why they did it.
Wow.
But give Parkland credit. They drove down to the 15 or the 17-yard line, but Nazareth knocked the ball out, recovered it, and ran it back for a touchdown when they would have probably had a chance to kick the winning field goal. So it was an incredible back and forth fourth quarter.
Yeah, and it had to be just so against obviously an arch rival like that, but and in when these things happen in the playoffs, they just take on a life of their own, right, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
They do, Bruce. And I think you, before we started talking about that game, you had something you were going to ask me once we got through the games. And I'll say, unfortunately, we're on family vacation, as you know. It's about time to go out and get ice cream. So if you guys don't mind, I'll make a final on what you were gonna ask me, and then I'll let you guys, rip the rest from here.
Yeah. Actually, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Penn State. I mean,
Yeah.
it was an enormously emotional, more emotion than I had seen maybe the entire year combined from that team, from Coach Franklin, and they had a real tussle there. And
Yeah.
obviously Aller going down and Purvula, playing well, bringing a new dynamic to that team.
Yeah, still not confident in him throwing the football, clearly. And in a game that they needed to eke out, grind out, kind of similar to what Michigan did, not really trusting their offense, throwing the football against Penn State the prior week. I felt like that's kind of what happened in the second half against Rutgers. I think the offense has a lot of questions to answer, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yurcich is gone. Clearly, they haven't established a new identity, unless that identity is we're not going to throw the football, which I kind of hope that's not the case. But, all indications are Aller should be back for the season ender against Michigan State. And I think the idea now is, sure, you want to get that win, be 10-2, go to a big bowl game. That's all great. Manage the sit outs and whatnot and what comes with postseason football. But the big thing now is building towards next year, keeping the talented guys that are underclassmen, keeping both running backs. We've heard some rumblings about that, and developing the new offensive identity to hopefully match from a standpoint of what this defense is, which in my mind on any given week can be the best defense in the country because of how talented they are, the points they've given up, yards they give up, but also how much pressure the Penn State offense puts on that defense for how long they have to be out there against talented teams. Can they get an offensive coordinator to come in and unlock the full potential of Drew Aller, unlock the full potential of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen? I'm just going to say it. Procure or require a few talented wide receivers that can create separation and allow Aller to be successful. Those are the things that I'll be looking forward to seeing. And again, I'll say this, some folks don't love James Franklin. He kind of wears on them, saying the same things, achieving the same results, etc. I do think there's a lot going on beneath the surface. The contract extension, people like to rag on that because of how many years, and they're still just winning 10 games. Listen, a big part of that contract wasn't necessarily more money per year in James's pocket. It was more commitment to facilities, to renovation of Beaver Stadium, to NIL, and most directly tied to what they're going to work on this offseason, assistant salaries. And so can we now see that come to fruition? Penn State got Manny Diaz among a long, long line of suitors, in part because of those new assistant salary buckets that James managed into the last contract. Now he needs to do it again. Get an offensive coordinator that'll unlock the potential of Aller and those running backs, procure the right talent, bolster the offensive line, and develop the identity that'll allow this team to grow into the echelon of Michigan and Ohio State. And with that, I'll get off the soapbox.
And
I'll
with
let you
that,
guys finish
right, and with that, it's all for ice cream. What's
off the ice cream?
What's the flavor tonight?
I don't know. I'm pretty like strawberry vanilla right down the middle of the fairway. So
there you go.
But I appreciate you guys. I'll see you soon.
All right, see you soon, Bob. Thanks a lot, man. Take care. Enjoy the ice cream.
Bob.
All right. Wow. Yeah, I mean,
so
envious. Yeah, he's down at the
I see you have the
Banks
tree out there, and
yeah. No, he's down on vacation. Thanks, Bob.
That's awesome
for joining in. And I guess that's the beauty of what we do here with the podcast too, because look, we're people too. We have lives. I mean, there are things that that we all do, with the exception of me. I'm always out here on the deck freezing my butt off, but you guys are at like big time sporting events, vacations, and what have you. But that's the beauty of this kind of podcast, and the technology now is that we have the ability to be flexible and be ourselves, and I think the fans like it a lot too. I really do. It brings in great guests, and we try and get better every day. I mean, I can tell you unequivocally, we're gonna put together some software to going into next year that will really be able to knock people for a loop on what we can do, bring in some additional video and everything like that. And so but anyway, Dave, hey, listen, let's take a look at some games that
Sure.
are upcoming. How about that? All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we
absolutely.
could we could spend another hour and a half and look at all of them, but we'll just try and pick a couple good ones here. So obviously, we're in a kind of a hybrid here between district championships and actual state quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And the Harrisburg Manheim Township game is actually, the District 3 championship is technically a state quarterfinal, but Harrisburg at Manheim Township. Township beat them pretty handily earlier this year, but kind of under extenuating circumstances that they went into like a second day after a game was canceled because of weather. Manheim, did a pretty good number on them, but I did the Manheim Township Cumberland Valley game last week for Penn Live.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, Manheim showed a little bit of kinks in the armor. They showed that, physicality wise, a team could kind of, handle them a little bit. What do you think about this one?
I think these are the two best 6A teams in District 3 going head to head. Listen, Harrisburg, they seem to find a way to win these games. And, it starts with their quarterback, Sean Lee Jr. And, I think, for them, he needs to have a big game, not only throwing the ball, running the ball, and, just trying to keep that Manheim Township offense, on the sidelines. So I think it's going to be a great game. It could be back and forth. I could argue for both teams that why they should win. And I think, again, this one, it may come down to the fourth quarter till we decide who wins that game.
Oh gosh, I have a couple fans actually apologizing because they're going to go watch the Eagles game. Well, they can finish watching this
Oh,
on
yeah.
demand, and
Go
that's why we
Birds,
kind of
right?
done it. Yeah, right. Go Birds. I mean, what the heck? I know that we moved the Whitfield Blitz show to a Tuesday from a Monday because the Steelers are playing on Monday Night Football. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, I mean, the District 1 championship, Downingtown West and CB South. I mean, just a battle of heavyweights there.
Yeah. I mean, if you would have talked about this earlier, I might have thought it would have been Downington East, CB West, but here we are. Downington West again made great adjustments, won a close game against East 17-14, and CB South big win against CB West. I think you finally saw not having their star running back really kind of hurt them in that
Yes,
game.
it did.
And CB South really ran the ball well. I'll tell you what, this one's going to be a good one, but I might give CB South a little edge in this one.
We had the Downingtown West coach on a little bit earlier this year, and I really just enjoyed hearing his philosophy on, football and life and his coaching. And I tell you what, it resonated against a team that they had lost to previously in Downingtown East.
Mm-hmm.
And, so much of this now is like, and I kind of touched on it with Coach Roken. I mean, how much emotion is left in the tank for these guys? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's all beat up. It comes down to so much emotion in these games. And I think Downingtown West is kind of on the uptick as far as emotion goes. So I like West there. But I mean, your thoughts on Nazareth and St. Joe Prep? You're obviously very close with the Nazareth team.
Mm-hmm.
They're really up against it against St. Joe Prep. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for me, they know what they're playing and what they're up against. For me is to see how these players compete against a team that's top 10 in the nation that has Division I talent. Like I said, I mentioned Sean Kinney. He's a guy that, this could bolster his highlight reel if he has a really good game against St. Joe's Prep. He's a kid that, listen, he's a two-time state champ at the
Yeah.
highest level in wrestling. Could have easily been a three-time, going for 4 championships. So, he has been the leader from the get-go. But for Nazareth, they're going to have to play a perfect game to be in this game and hope that Prep turns the ball over. But that when you play a team like this, you're going to have to finish drives almost every time, because if you go 3 and out and Prep's up 14-0, it could be over before halftime. So that being said, again, this is a great opportunity for these kids to play a program like St. Joe's Prep.
Yeah, you touched on it. It seems like the only way that anybody has a shot at St. Joe Prep is if St. Joe Prep beats themselves, and they rarely do it. In fact, I've never seen them. I've seen them turn the ball over here and there, but not in a rash that is going to change an outcome of a game. I've seen enough games of them, especially championship games. They turn the ball over here and there, but not in a way that's going to affect the outcome. That's a tall order for Nazareth, and especially too having to go down to Philadelphia. I think that, quite honestly, and this reciprocates with Bonner going to Dallas. It seems like, in that situation, boy, that is just, it seems like light years for Bonner to go all the way up to District 2 to play that game.
It seems like this round of games, a lot of the higher seed is hosting, like Southern Columbia.
Yeah.
Look at MLTEP. They had to, I'm thinking they moved the game because they had to travel all the way up to Delaware Valley. I mean, that's up by the New York border.
Right.
That's over a 3 to 4 hour trip for them, probably.
Yeah.
So that's a hike. So for a Friday, that's, I think, why they probably moved that game to Saturday.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of these programs, Northwestern Lehigh, I think they're hosting their game.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some games that are in neutral fields, but I mean, it's definitely a hike, and especially like last year when Central Catholic was playing teams from out in Western PA, they had to find an area where it's a neutral field, because I mean, you can't make a team drive all the way from the east to the west or west to the east. So it's interesting that this year they're having a lot of these teams host their playoff games when you thought it might be neutral fields, but maybe stadiums aren't available.
Yeah, and that's, I kind of touched on that a little bit. Obviously these are the key games here, and we're just going to kind of bump around a little bit here, but I mean, Steel High having to go to Lackawanna Trail, 2 undefeated heavyweights going at it. I think that's the game in the state this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a tremendous game. You're talking arguably the 2 best single A teams in Eastern PA all year. We know about Steel High. Their goal is to win 3 state titles in 4 years. They're 2-time state champs. It's going to be a great game. I think, again, back and forth. I think this is a team that we think could go back and defend their state title?
Well, we're going to bring a little controversy in here.
Okay.
All right. So one of the games on here is Ephrata at Cocalico. This is for the District 3 5A
Yep.
championship. Cocalico, kind of a smaller field. It's a grass field.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Ephrata, this is the first time. I mean, this is, uncharted waters, or just,
Yep.
obviously the game sold out on Sunday.
Wow.
Okay. Like
Sunday.
2,500 seats and 1,000 standing room only. There are parents of players who, because they, went to church, couldn't get a seat to watch their kid play.
Oh my
There is
God.
like massive uproar here saying, oh, you got to move the game and, everything else. What are your thoughts on something like that? Should the PIAA step in and say there are so many more people that want to watch this game that we have to move it? Or do you side with the PIAA and say, hey, it is what it is? I mean, they seem to be pretty steadfast that they're not going to move the game, but who knows? I mean, this is really turned into a firestorm.
So considering this is a District 3 final, I think it's a District 3 PIAA issue. Right. Is this game televised?
It's on cable. It's on the cable.
Okay.
So it's not out there, it's not out there on YouTube for everybody to watch. You have to be a cable subscriber to watch the game. So literally you have to live in the particular area to watch the game. Now that's fine, but because obviously the people that are most complaining are parents that obviously live in the cable viewing area that can't get to the game. But so yeah, and you make a good point. It's really a district problem, not a PIAA problem.
Yeah, and wasn't it not too long ago that like the District 3 finals were at Hershey when we were still going to Hershey?
Yeah, it was a few years ago. I think we're probably like maybe year 4 of higher seeds, basically hosting. And that was more necessarily, I mean, there's a cost issue with Hershey, but also it was just difficult finding neutral site fields that could host.
I think it's so late right now that it's great news that they sold out on Sunday is incredible. But for them to move it to a different location, you don't know what's available and what is. Because these schools are done, they're closing their stadium down. So maybe this is a learning curve for everyone that, listen, if you're going to sell out on Sunday, you might want to rethink about maybe moving it to neutral to accommodate other fans. But how many more fans would it be? Would it be just a couple hundred, 500, or another 1,000? So you have to look at a lot of factors, costs of going to another stadium versus, them playing on their home turf, basically.
Well, they earn the right to play on their home turf.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, unfortunately, you're not going to make everyone happy. I get it. But the next thing is make it accessible and maybe also have the feed on YouTube that the fans anywhere could see it. That's
my buddy Chad Landers.
I mean, I don't know what else to say.
My buddy Chad Landers at Blue Ridge doesn't want to hear that, but
I know.
But
maybe they're the ones that could do
the
it.
game anyway. I mean, they're going to be telecasting the game anyway. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But still, that it really, that is like the headline today is everything to do with that game, that parents of players can't get in to watch their kids play. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
that's
never heard
no.
of that before.
Can I touch on one game?
Sure.
Scranton Prep at Northwestern Lehigh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Northwestern Lehigh, what they did to Palmerton was incredible. Their offensive and defensive line is just incredible. And then District 11, 3A, I mean, you had North Schuylkill, Notre Dame, Palmerton. You had teams that at one point might have been ranked in the state. So it's been a drought for a while for District 11 to get to that final. Um, you know, for them, I said to Keith Roller the other day, is they just have to be 1-0 this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're in the final four against either a tremendous Wyomissing team or Danville. This is, I think, District 11's best shot to go, and I said this weeks ago, to go deep in the playoffs. So they're going to play a tremendous Scranton Prep team that knocked off a very good Newman Greta team.
Yeah.
And this one, it's going to be interesting to see how Scranton Prep does against that tremendous defensive line. Can they run the ball against them? That's where the game's going to be won, because if they can't, Northwestern's going to win that game. But if they can, it could be Prep.
Yeah, and the game I'm doing for Penn Live is Manheim Central at Bishop
Oof.
McDevitt, a rematch of the 4A championship last year that Bishop McDevitt won 40-0. I don't expect it to be 40-0 this year. Manheim Central off of a 65-28 win at Twin Valley to get here.
Yeah.
I tell you, just incredible. Any thoughts on this game, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, we saw them way back in Delaware, the miracle
The miracle of
touchdown.
yeah.
I'll tell you what, again, Coach Hahn, his son, Enterline, just they have players, and also McDevitt, they have, Stone Saunders, Kentucky commit. They have a Alabama wide receiver. This is a team that I think has a great shot to possibly defend their state title. But
Bryson
again,
Arnold had like over
oh
300 yards rushing and
yeah,
6
rushing,
touchdowns last week. I mean,
yeah.
incredible. But
I
I
mean,
think that's the key to the game.
yeah,
Whether Manheim can run the ball or not.
yeah. I mean, if they can run the ball and have balance, that's going to help their passing game. Because if they can't run the ball and McDevitt's keen on that passing game, it might be a tough game again.
Yeah.
But this McDevitt team, they're built to make this run again, and it's going to take a tremendous program to beat them.
Yeah, well, are there any other games that weren't on the list there that you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, I think we touched for the most of what games. We're going to find out after this weekend. It's going to be down the Final Four, 2 weeks till we go to Cumberland Valley, and we're getting used to saying that, not throwing Hershey kisses and going to Hershey. They still have to figure out what they're going to do. When they win and they're heading to Cumberland Valley. I don't know if anyone came up with anything creative yet, but I'm sure someone will. But listen, I'm looking forward to this weekend and the next few weeks. Hey, pretty soon we're going to crown 6 champions. Are there going to be some new ones? Are there going to be some repeat ones? We're going to find out in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, we will. And it's just been incredible. And listen, we want to thank all of our fans for tuning in tonight. We've
Yeah.
had some, well, believe me, we've had some lively conversation on the chat tonight, Dave.
I hope all good. I don't see it, so
Well, yeah, we'll see. What you need to do is sign into the YouTube, and then you'll be able to see the chat too. And
yeah.
kind of
Well,
go
I
through
hope
it
it was
along.
all good.
It was, you know what, we appreciate everybody's opinions, and
Yeah.
that's the main thing. The reason why we do the game on YouTube here is so that we can have fans interact with the show. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, everyone has their own opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like we're picking every game right, okay? And I know there's a lot of passionate fans out there, and that's perfectly fine. So, we this is what it's about, having fun, talking football. We could agree to disagree at times.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, Dave, thanks so much for
Yeah.
tonight. It was very special, and it becomes even more special as you touched on that when we get down there. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Want to thank Bob Long. Bob, I'm sure will be tuning in to check out the end of the broadcast when he gets back with the ice. Yeah, right. We'll have to ask him, what flavor,
Yeah.
he got or whatever like
Yeah.
that. But hey, listen, until next week, my name's Bruce Badgley for Dave, Micah, and our buddy Bob Long. We want to thank Tim Roken for joining us.
Yeah.
And we will have another great show next week as we head down to Cumberland Valley. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week here on Eastern PA Football's Fresh